I hid because I thought that my Tourette's made me ugly.
Sometimes the brightest smiles hide the deepest pain. No one knew this better than the millions of fans who followed one young woman's extraordinary journey. On the surface, Baylen Dupree, known to the world through Baylen Out Loud, was the girl who could make anyone laugh. Her energy was infectious, her personality magnetic, and her humor impossible to resist. People thought they knew her story, an inspiring tale of a young woman living with Tourette syndrome, facing challenges with courage and wit. But behind those smiles, behind every joke and quirky tic that made her videos viral, there was a secret that few could ever imagine. A battle so intense that it threatened to consume her entirely. The young woman who had taught millions to embrace their differences was, in reality, hiding a darkness that would eventually come to light in a way that left fans around the world breathless. This is a story of resilience and vulnerability, of laughter and despair, of a girl who lived in front of millions while secretly fighting to survive herself. Baylen Dupree's journey wasn't just about Tourette syndrome. It was about the pressure of being perfect, the toll of fame, and the strength it takes to continue smiling when the world is watching, unaware of the storm inside. What you're about to discover isn't just the story of a social media star. It's the raw, unfiltered truth of the girl who made everyone laugh while hiding the tears no one could see. Baylen Dupree wasn't born under a spotlight. She was just another child with dreams, laughter, and a world to explore, but from the very beginning, something about her life was different. While other kids worried about homework, friendships, and weekend plans, Baylen faced a challenge that would shape every moment of her life. She had Tourette syndrome, a neurological condition that caused her body and voice to act without warning. Imagine trying to sit quietly in class while your own brain refuses to let your body rest. Tics taking over in ways that made her stand. Out, sometimes painfully, in front of peers. From early childhood, Baylen learned the complex dance of hiding her tics and laughing along with life when it often felt impossible. There were moments of embarrassment, moments of frustration, and moments when she wondered if anyone could ever understand what it truly felt like. And yet, beneath the struggles, there was something extraordinary, a spirit unwilling to be defeated. Baylen found humor in the chaos, a coping mechanism that would later become her hallmark. She could turn a frustrating or awkward moment into a laugh not only for herself but for those around her. Her family noticed this resilience and became her first fans, first advocates. They filmed moments together, celebrated small victories, and showed Baylen that being different was never something to be ashamed of. Every tic, every unexpected outburst became part of her story, a story of perseverance that Baylen chose to share with the world. It was her way of saying, "I see you, I understand, and it's okay to be yourself." The decision to go public was both brave and naive. Baylen had no idea how vast her impact would become. The simple act of sharing her daily life, her humor, and her struggles on social media would soon evolve into something larger than she could have ever imagined. People weren't just watching because of her condition, they were watching because of her courage, her laughter, and her ability to make light of a life that was anything but simple. It began with short videos on social media, small glimpses, into a life defined by tics, laughter, and candid honesty. But what viewers saw was only a fraction of reality. Baylen's charm was immediate. She had a rare combination of humor, intelligence, and vulnerability that drew people in. Her videos went viral, and fans connected with her in a way few influencers ever do. They weren't laughing at her condition. They were laughing with her, inspired by her courage and authenticity. The community around Baylen grew rapidly. Viewers who had once felt isolated by their own differences now found hope and relatability in her story. Her content encouraged them to embrace their quirks and to see humor even in challenges. Every video, every tic, turned into an opportunity to educate, entertain, and inspire. Yet, beneath the surface, the demands of maintaining this image were already beginning to weigh heavily on her. Baylen's family was a constant source of support. They filmed videos together, celebrated the viral moments, and encouraged her to continue sharing her story. Her parents and her fiancé, Colin, stood by her side, proud and amazed at how quickly she was building a community of people who felt less alone because of her openness. But even with this support, the cracks were beginning to form. The more she reached millions, the more she felt the pressure to be perfect, to always smile, and to always deliver content that was both entertaining and educational. The duality of fame became evident early on. The laughter she generated online was real, but it was also a mask, a way to cope with the anxiety, exhaustion, and loneliness that often accompanied her condition. For every moment of joy, there were countless hours of struggle behind the camera. And while fans adored her, no one could see the silent battle that raged inside the young woman who had quickly become a symbol of hope. When TLC came calling, it seemed like a dream come true. The network wanted to give Baylen a platform far bigger than social media, a television show that would document her life with Tourette syndrome, offering an inside look that audiences had never seen before. Baylen Out Loud was born. Suddenly, she wasn't just a social media personality, she was a television star with millions of eyes on her every move. At first, the excitement was intoxicating. Baylen could finally reach people on a national scale, educate them about her condition, and inspire a generation of young viewers who saw themselves reflected in her story. But along with this opportunity came an overwhelming weight. Every day, cameras followed her everywhere, capturing good moments, bad moments, and all the moments in between. Even the most private struggles were now public, and the stakes had never felt higher. Baylen threw herself into the project with everything she had. Determined to represent her community accurately, she worked tirelessly to show the world that people with Tourette syndrome were more than their condition. They had dreams, humor, and fears, just like everyone else. Yet, with every smile she shared on camera, the pressure to maintain that persona grew. Every tick, every slip, every vulnerable moment became a performance, and the expectation to be always perfect began to erode the young woman's sense of self. Her family watched as the stress mounted. They could see the strain behind her eyes, the tension in her posture, and the moments when her humor became forced. Baylen's commitment to advocacy and education was genuine, but it was beginning to take a toll she hadn't fully anticipated. And what no one could predict was how much this toll would escalate, turning what started as a dream opportunity into an almost unbearable burden. The cameras could not capture the emotional exhaustion Baylen was enduring. Therapy sessions, anxiety, and the relentless pressure to be the perfect representative of a community weighed heavily on her. For someone so young, the responsibility was immense. She spent 4 days a week in therapy, yet she continued to smile for the cameras, assuring fans that everything was fine, even when she was quietly falling apart inside. "I was embarrassed of who I was," Baylen later admitted in a moment of unguarded honesty. Those words hit her audience like a punch to the gut. The girl who had empowered countless people to embrace their differences was secretly ashamed of herself. Under the constant scrutiny of millions, her Tourette syndrome worsened, and the tics that viewers saw on television were far less severe than what she endured in private. "It's 30 seconds of 4 years of my life," she explained, describing the disconnect between what fans saw and what she actually experienced. "That tiny snippet doesn't even begin to show the disaster of emotions, confusion, and hopelessness I went through." Her family and fiancé observed the mounting pressure. They saw Baylen pushing herself harder and harder, trying to live up to the expectations of fans, network executives, and herself. Every day was a balancing act between educating the world, entertaining millions, and maintaining her own sanity. but the mask of positivity and humor was growing heavier with each passing day, threatening to break her entirely. Baylen's story became a cautionary tale about the unseen costs of fame. While millions cheered her on, none could see the silent struggle. A young woman sacrificing her mental health to meet impossible expectations. Every smile, every laugh, every lighthearted video was a veneer, hiding a depth of pain that the cameras could never fully capture. As time went on, the weight of constant scrutiny became unbearable. Every mistake, every bad day, and every moment of vulnerability was documented forever. Baylen couldn't have a normal rough day. Millions were watching, judging, and analyzing her every move. The pressure compounded, and the young woman who had once found joy in her differences began to lose herself. The reality of her struggle came into sharp focus when she reflected on what fans saw versus what actually happened. Baylen Out Loud showed only her best moments, yet even those were exhausting to produce. Her darkest days, when her tics were uncontrollable, when anxiety overwhelmed her, when the spotlight felt suffocating, were unseen and unheard by the world. Fans were stunned when Baylen revealed the truth. They realized the laughter and bravery they admired had come at a tremendous personal cost. The girl they looked up to was fighting a battle far deeper than they could have imagined, and the revelation reshaped how her entire journey was perceived. Despite her success, Baylen longed for normalcy. College represented a chance to step out of the spotlight, to live life as herself rather than the girl from Baylen Out Loud. She imagined walking across campus unnoticed, sitting in lecture halls without cameras, and making friends who knew her as Baylen, not as a social media or TV personality. But her other conditions, accompanying Tourette syndrome, interfered. The demands of fame, therapy, and public expectation prevented her from fully embracing these dreams. Even in the pursuit of education and independence, the shadow of her public life lingered, a reminder that escaping fame wasn't simple. Yet Baylen's resilience persisted. She continued to advocate, inspire, and educate, even while navigating the delicate balance between personal dreams and public responsibility. The girl who made millions laugh was, for much of her life, fighting to find reasons to smile herself. Behind every bright video, every joke, every tic shared with the world was a silent battle few could see or understand. Baylen Dupree's story is a reminder that strength isn't always visible, that courage often hides behind smiles, and that the most inspiring people sometimes struggle the most in silence. Her journey leaves us breathless, not because she was perfect, but because she kept going, even when the world was watching and the weight was almost too much to bear. Even as Baylen tried to navigate life beyond the cameras, the weight of advocacy never lifted. Every comment, every direct message, every heartfelt email from a fan became a responsibility she felt she could not ignore. She wasn't just Baylen Dupree anymore. She was a symbol, a voice for countless people living with Tourette syndrome. The pressure to respond, to reassure, to educate, and to inspire was relentless. The irony was cruel. The same fans who adored her for being authentic unknowingly fueled a perfection she could never sustain. Every post had to be uplifting, every video had to reflect courage, every interaction a chance to give hope, but the cost was immense. Burnout settled in quietly, like a shadow she couldn't escape. Anxiety became a constant companion, whispering that if she ever failed, even for a day, she was letting everyone down. Despite this, Baylen refused to let her struggle show. She smiled for the camera, laughed at her own tics, and shared lighthearted content while silently battling exhaustion. She felt torn between two worlds, the public expectation of her as a beacon of hope and her private need for rest and healing. Nights were the hardest, when silence replaced the laughter and she felt the weight of responsibility pressing down harder than ever. Yet, even in those moments, she reminded herself why she started. To make a difference, to show that living with Tourette syndrome was not a limitation, but a story worth telling. It was a delicate, often painful balance between helping others and protecting herself. Each day brought a new challenge, a new moment where she had to decide whether to prioritize herself or continue giving to the world. And though fans only saw a brave, smiling girl, behind the scenes, the pressure was quietly reshaping her life in ways that would soon demand action. Fame was not kind to Baylen's personal relationships. Even with her family and fiancé Colin by her side, the emotional distance was real. The constant attention, the unending demands of advocacy, and the weight of expectation created invisible walls. Conversations that once felt natural became layered with stress. Simple disagreements were amplified by exhaustion and anxiety. Colin, patient and loving, watched as Baylen oscillated between moments of joy and waves of overwhelm. Her parents, ever supportive, worried silently. They knew she was hurting, but Baylen often masked her pain with humor and charm, leaving them unsure how deeply she struggled. She felt guilty for burdening them, for needing support while trying to be the strong, inspirational figure everyone admired. Friendships outside the family were even more complicated. Normal social interactions, casual outings, and simple spontaneous moments were disrupted by her fame and condition. People often didn't understand the toll of living both publicly and privately. Some friends felt disconnected, unsure how to relate to the young woman whose life had become a mix of cameras, tics, and therapy sessions. Baylen loved them dearly, but balancing her own survival with the expectations of others left her isolated in ways she never wanted to feel. Yet these strains also became moments of growth. Baylen began to recognize that asking for help was not weakness, that leaning on those she loved could coexist with her advocacy work. She learned slowly that relationships required honesty, vulnerability, and trust, and that true support could carry her through even the darkest periods. As the demands of public life continued, Baylen's health began to feel the strain. Tourette syndrome, already challenging, intensified under stress. Tics that had once been manageable became overwhelming, sometimes rendering her unable to leave her room or speak without interruption. Anxiety and depression crept in, intertwined with physical exhaustion, creating a storm that threatened to consume her. New challenges emerged as well. Therapy sessions multiplied, medications were adjusted, and hospital visits became a sobering reality. Baylen feared judgment, worried that revealing her vulnerability would shatter the perception fans had of her. She wanted to continue inspiring others, but each day became a negotiation between self-preservation and public expectation. The private battles were staggering. Simple tasks felt monumental. Attending events, filming, and engaging with fans sometimes required near superhuman effort. Baylen often asked herself, if this is who I am in my best moments, who am I when I'm at my lowest? The answer was terrifying, yet she found ways to continue, often drawing strength from those who loved her and from the small victories she achieved each day. Even with all the challenges, Baylen's humor never completely faded. There were fleeting moments of laughter, inside jokes with her fiancé, playful banter with her parents, and glimpses of the vibrant young woman fans adored. But these moments were islands in a sea of struggle, each one precious, each one a reminder of what she was fighting to preserve: her identity, her joy, and her voice. The turning point came when Baylen realized she could no longer navigate life alone. The weight of fame, advocacy, and personal struggle had become unsustainable. She sought more intensive therapy, reduced her social media output, and set firm boundaries with media requests. These decisions were terrifying. What if she disappointed fans? What if she lost her platform? Her family and Colin stepped in more actively, providing emotional, logistical, and practical support. The dynamic shifted. Instead of pushing herself to exhaustion, Baylen began to prioritize healing. She learned that self-care was not selfish and that boundaries could coexist with influence. This period of introspection and adjustment was transformative. Baylen explored new ways to engage with her audience without sacrificing mental health, created content that felt authentic rather than performative, and allowed herself to feel her emotions fully, without hiding behind humor or cameras. The relief was palpable. For the first time in years, she felt she could breathe, reflect, and rebuild her life on her own terms. Balance didn't come overnight. It was a slow, deliberate process, filled with trial and error. Baylen learned to manage her health, advocacy, and personal life with intention. She selected projects carefully, limited exposure when necessary, and prioritized therapy and rest. Her message evolved. You don't have to be perfect to inspire. You don't have to endure every struggle silently to be brave. Authenticity mattered more than flawless performance. Fans responded positively, inspired not only by her story, but by her honesty and vulnerability. Baylen discovered that joy could coexist with challenge, that advocacy could exist alongside self-care, and that living with Tourette syndrome, or any personal struggle, was not a limitation, but a unique perspective to share with the world. The balance she achieved was imperfect, but it was real, sustainable, and empowering. Reflecting on her journey, Baylen understood the profound impact she had made. She had changed lives, educated millions, and inspired a generation to embrace differences. Yet her story was also a lesson in resilience, honesty, and self-compassion.